Mega Man. Yet another series that's been a favorite of mine. The Mega Man franchise has had a long, storied history of platforming excellence and rather brutal NES hard difficulty. So, since Mega Man 11 came out 2 months ago, and with this year being the year Capcom is celebrating its 30th anniversary, I figured I'd talk about the classic series much in the same vein as the Final Fantasy series. Thankfully, these games are a lot shorter, so you don't have to worry about videos being as long as an episode of, I don't know, insert whatever hour-long show you watch here only without the commercials. But of course, before we talk about the Mega Man series, we must talk about how this series came to be in the first place. Mega Man was created in 1987 by Capcom. Unlike with Square Enix and Final Fantasy, we won't be delving into the company's history since, well, it's not as important to the game's development this time around. Around the middle of the 1980s, Capcom was mostly known as an arcade game developer, but they wanted to make a game for Japanese home consoles. As such, they put together a team of young, still unproven designers in order to create this game. One of these designers was illustrator and the fan-named father of Mega Man, Keiji Inafune. Oh man, how he's fallen from grace recently. So, back in 1987, Inafune was a recent college graduate who was looking for a job in game development as an artist. His original plans were to work for Konami, who is often considered a rival company to Capcom, but settled on Capcom themselves as they were closer to where he lived. His first job, however, was not working on Mega Man, but instead working on another flagship Capcom franchise that started out in 1987, Street Fighter. He created the character portraits found in the game, which means he's partially responsible for the design of Ryu, Ken, and Sagat. Inafune, however, became the sole creator of all the characters in the game, which makes sense when you consider that the original game's development team consisted of only 6 people. In an interview with Play Magazine back in 2004, Inafune said, "We didn't have a lot of people, so after drawing character designs, I was actually doing the dotting for the Nintendo. Back then, people weren't specialized and we had to do a lot of different things because there were so few people. So I really ended up doing all the characters." Although Inafune himself claims only half of the credit for Mega Man's design since his mentor and the game's director, Akira Kitamura, laid the basic groundwork for the character. Speaking of, when the character was being created, he didn't even have a name. The developers did come up with a few names for him, including Mighty Kid, Knuckle Kid, Battle Kid, and Rainbow Man. However, they eventually came up with a name that stuck, Rockman. What? Is something wrong? Oh, right. Some of you might not be aware of this, but Mega Man's name in Japan is actually Rockman and not Mega Man. Those of you who do know this might also know that the name Rockman is not a reference to literal rocks, but actually a reference to rock and roll music, and is also why they named Mega Man's sister Roll. The reason it was changed to Mega Man in the West? Well, that's credited to former Capcom of America Vice President Joseph Marici. Here's a quote from an interview with Game Players magazine. "That title was horrible," Marici said, "so I came up with Mega Man, and they liked it enough to keep using it for the US games." I mean, he does have a point. As much as I love rock music, and although it is a pun I can actually tolerate, the name Mega Man just has so much more of a punch to it. Everything else I need to mention I should probably save for the game itself, so let's jump right in and see how this franchise started.